Hey guys, this is Heather from healthyveganrecipes.net. Today I wanted to show you a way to make cauliflower into an amazing creamy soup. Cauliflower is a super nutritious vegetable, but I don't know about you, but it's not at the top of my list of favorite vegetables. Most people think of cauliflower as like a vessel for dip, which is fine if you're eating a healthy dip, but there are ways to make this vegetable delicious, so let's get on to that. If you want to skip ahead to the recipe, I'll post that over at healthyveganrecipes.net. But for those of you who want to see how it's done, let's get started with cooking. The base of this soup is going to be some cooked buckwheat. And for those of you who haven't seen buckwheat before, it's kind of a triangular shaped grain. There it is in its untoasted form. So a lot of the time you'll see it listed as kasha and it's kind of a brown color. That's when it's been toasted and it has a really distinctive flavor. Whereas if you can find this more beige color, it hasn't been toasted and the flavor is a lot softer. So I like to use this type of buckwheat. So what you're going to do is start with 3/4 cup of buckwheat, put that in a pot with 3 cups of water, bring it to a boil and then turn it down to simmer. Leave it covered so that the water doesn't evaporate, and that'll take about 25 minutes to cook. So I started this about 15 minutes ago, and now what I'm going to do is lightly steam a sweet onion and my cauliflower, because when you cook the cauliflower just a little bit, it helps to soften the flavor and the texture so that it's going to really work well in our creamy soup. So chop up your onion in whatever size chunk you want. This is going to get blended, so it doesn't really matter, but if you get too small of a chunks, they'll cook really quickly and probably get mushy, or if they're too big, they won't cook fast enough, so somewhere in between. You're going to put a little bit of water in the bottom, so I've put just to cover the bottom of the pot so that they don't burn. I've been getting more and more into this method of cooking. Some people call it water sauteing, but really it's just steaming. You can saute the onions and the cauliflower if you wish. Just get these both in the pot together. You just want to cook them lightly to soften them and not lose too many nutrients. If you saute, just try to use as little oil as possible. If you do saute them, it does help retain some of the flavor. So if you're in transition to a plant-based diet, or if you're cooking for people who are meat eaters or used to very intense flavors, you might want to saute just to win them over. But for me, once your taste buds get into healthy eating, you realize that all you need is the flavor of the foods. Once that gets boiling, you want to turn it down a little bit. And once you get all of your cauliflower into the pot, put a lid on top so that the water doesn't evaporate. If you sprinkle a little bit of salt on here as well, they will cook a little bit faster, so you can minimize the amount of time these veggies are on the heat. Now the reason I choose to steam over saute is because even though the flavor is a little bit softer, anytime you cook with oil, you're going to be creating some toxins, and a healthy body can handle some toxins, so that's not a huge problem. But if I have the choice, I'm going to choose the non-oil cooking route. So 10 minutes and your cauliflower should be just lightly steamed. The buckwheat should be nice and soft. Cooking it with that extra cup of water means that it's going to be super, super soft and easy to blend into this pureed soup. So now we're moving on to the fun part of pureeing, and what you can use is either a hand blender, which is really easy for cleanup but doesn't quite blend fully, or you can use a blender or a food processor. And I've got my food processor out, so what we're going to do is transfer the buckwheat and the steamed veggies into the processor and then puree it until it's somewhat smooth. So I've got the cauliflower pureed first and the onion. When you put that into the food processor, you want to make sure there's no liquid in here, and just chop up the vegetables first. And then that makes some room for me to add the buckwheat. There it is, cooked, nice and soft. So I'll put that in here and then puree again. So you can see that the buckwheat blends up really nice and smoothly. If you don't have buckwheat, by the way, you can use any other type of grain. Just cook it with plenty of water so that it gets nice and soft. Buckwheat is just one of the softest, so it blends up really, really nice. But rice will work well, quinoa works as well, whatever works for you. So at this point you want to thin your soup out a little bit with some water, and you can use the little bit of water that you cooked your cauliflower and onion in, because that will have some nutrients in it. When you're using a food processor, you can't fill it too full, so that's the one downside. That's probably pretty much what I'm going to be left with, and then what I'll do is I'll put it back in the pot and add a little bit more water at the end to finish thinning it out, because it is quite thick. Okay, so now comes a bit of the fun part, and what we're going to do is to make this even creamier, because cauliflower isn't really a creamy vegetable. Even when you blend this up with the buckwheat, it's still a little bit chunky. So what we're going to do is add some nut or seed butter. You can use whatever kind you like, almond, tahini. I've got sesame seed butter today. You're going to put in about a tablespoon, and it likes to stick to the spoon. Get that in there. And then with that, if you add a little bit of acid, so either apple cider vinegar, or what I'm going to use is half a lemon, that will combine with the nut or seed butter and make it super, super creamy. And you can also zest the outside of your lemon for some added flavor. So it's probably hard to tell the difference on the camera, but now that I've blended that up with the lemon juice, it's much, much creamier, and it also has a much richer feel in the mouth. So what I'm going to do now is transfer this back to the pot, add some more water to thin it out, and add the seasonings. So for seasonings, we've got the super awesome fresh thyme from the garden. Goes wonderfully well with the lemon juice. Then I've got some nutritional yeast, which is just this yellow flaky stuff, and it is for flavor. That's why I add it, is for the cheesy kind of flavor. So if you can't find it, don't worry about it, but it will add a definite cheesiness, creaminess to your soup. I'm gonna have a little pinch of paprika just to spice it up a little bit, and some salt, and I use herbamere, which is sea salt mixed with some dried vegetables and dried herbs and a little bit of kelp. So I love to use herbamere. It adds flavor as well as reduces the amount of salt that you use. So stir that all together, give it a taste, add whatever else you like, or change the flavorings to suit what you enjoy. And if you leave this to cook a little bit more, the flavors will really combine together nicely, and it makes great leftovers too. So enjoy your creamy cauliflower and thyme soup, and I hope you like my super special tip for making it even creamier, which is the nut or seed butter with the vinegar or lemon juice. That really helps with any recipe that you want to make super creamy, is combining those, and they really come together nicely. Let me know what you think of this recipe by leaving me a comment. I would love to know whether you guys try it and what flavor combinations you like to use in it. And I will see you guys next time.